Following Operation Pillar of Defense, which began on September 22, 2012, residents of southern Israel experienced a period of relative calm, which lasted throughout 2013. Nevertheless, during that time, terrorist organizations, led by Hamas and the Palestinian Islamic Jihad, were rearming, rogue terrorist groups were erratically firing rockets toward the State of Israel, and violent riots in the perimeter zone were taking place. This rearming process included domestic rocket and weapon production, the acceleration of tunnel expansion, and the development of offensive air and naval capabilities. During this period, civilians in Gaza suffered from a severe economic crisis, which was exacerbated following the fall of the Muslim Brotherhood government in Egypt and the political isolation which followed for Hamas. In recent years, the IDF has been using different methods to counter the offensive tunnels threat. This threat grew and was fully materialized with the discovery of the tunnels codenamed Robotic Gear, December in Moscow, and Indian Chai. In response to these discoveries, the Southern Command, in coordination with the General Staff, led an effort codenamed Heat of Day to uncover offensive tunnels. This effort integrated technological, intelligence, and engineering capabilities. In April 2014, the IDF discovered that Hamas was planning a complex terrorist attack in the areas of Kerem Shalom and Sufa. The purpose of the plan was to attack civilian communities and military bases and to attempt to take Israeli hostages. Since May 2014, the IDF has intensified preparations in light of operational assessments following the increased mortar fire during February 2014, known as Mordecai's Sword, and the intensive rearmament programs of the terrorist organizations in Gaza. The goal was to ensure that IDF forces would be prepared for another potential operation in Gaza Strip, known as Outstretched Arm, by the 15th of July 2014. The IDF's comprehensive plan was led by the Southern Command and involved various organizations and services. The preparations included increased training, upgrading operational readiness, coordination between different IDF units, increased intelligence gathering, target identification, and command-level coordination. Following the failed peace negotiations between Israel and the Palestinian Authority, an internal reconciliation agreement was signed between the Palestinian Authority and Hamas. As part of that agreement, a technocratic government, parts of which would be located in Gaza, was appointed to head the PA. On June 12, 3 Israeli teenagers, Gilad Sha'ar, Eyal Yifrach, and Naftali Frankel, were kidnapped by Hamas operatives from Hebron. In response, the IDF launched Operation Brother's Keeper in Judea and Samaria. This operation lasted for 18 days, and its goals were finding the 3 boys, apprehending the kidnappers, and dealing a blow to Hamas in Judea and Samaria. In the days following the kidnapping, rogue terrorist organizations in Gaza, with the encouragement of Hamas, began launching rockets toward Israel. The IDF responded to these attacks with Israeli Air Force precision strikes. On June 29, 2014, for the first time since Operation Pillar of Defense, the IDF targeted a Hamas terrorist squad. After the target was attacked, Hamas itself began firing toward Israel. The bodies of the kidnapped teenagers were found near Khalkhul on June 30th. During the following week, until July 7th, more rockets were fired from Gaza toward Israel. The IDF responded by attacking more targets and reinforcing its defensive forces around the Gaza Strip in preparation for a possible ground operation. On July 4th and 5th, entrances to an offensive tunnel reaching into Israeli territory near Kerem Shalom were attacked. 7 Hamas operatives were killed in the attack on the tunnel. Understanding that Hamas was very close to being able to execute terrorist attacks via an offensive tunnel near Kerem Shalom, the IAF attacked the tunnel on July 7th. In response to this attack, Hamas and the Palestinian Islamist Jihad fired over 100 rockets towards Israel. That evening, the Chief of the General Staff, Lieutenant General Benny Gantz, declared a state of emergency within the IDF. The Israeli government then ordered the expansion of the targeted strikes within Gaza, and the IDF began Operation Protective Edge. The strategic mission: to create long-term stability in the Palestinian arena, to To ensure that Hamas remains as the responsible and effective organization in Gaza, that it is deterred, militarily weakened, controlled, and at the same time controlling other forces in its area, and to create economic and civil stability within Gaza. The goal of the operation: to discourage Hamas from attacks against the State of Israel, to improve the security situation in southern Israel, and to avoid escalations in other operational arenas. In the first stage of the operation, the IAF launched hundreds of precision strikes against Hamas targets. These targets included Hamas outposts, offensive tunnel infrastructure, command and control centers, rocket production center, ammunition stores, and rocket launchers. Some of these military targets were located within mosques, schools, and hospitals.
ليش عم بتحبب المساجد؟ هل معقول دينيا بالإسلام إن يكون مخزن أسلحة تحت مسجد؟ إذا واحد بده يحرب ويقتل ليش بيحبي نفسه تحت علة؟ نحن بنعمل كل اللي ممكن إنه بنكون دقيقين، بس أسف الشديد هم بيستعملوا السجعية وخان يونس والبوغيج وغافع وبيت حنون بين المدنيين.
The attacks the IDF launched throughout the operation were planned and executed in accordance with international law and IDF value, both of which do not allow harming non-combatant civilians. The IDF's efforts to prevent civilian casualties included warning pamphlets, warning phone calls, and the knock-on-the-roof procedure. During the first few days of the operation, Hamas fired long-range rockets toward Israeli towns and cities, which reached Hadera, Haifa, and the Gush Dan area, and attempted to carry out complex cross-border attacks, such as the landing attempt near Zikim and a UAV flight into Israel. The IDF forces dealt with each threat with the help of a determined, focused, and professional joint force. This stage of the operation continued until July 15th, when the Israeli government agreed to an Egyptian initiative for a ceasefire. Hamas broke the ceasefire and by doing so revealed its intent to escalate the situation. This strengthened the IDF's legitimacy to continue the operation as a ground campaign, both within Israel and in the international arena. The purpose of the operation, as presented on July 16th to the COGS by the Commanding General of the Southern Command, was to destroy the offensive tunnel infrastructure. All preparations were made with this purpose in mind. On the night between Wednesday, July 16th and Thursday, July 17th, terrorists infiltrated Israel through an offensive tunnel near Kibbutz Sufa. An observation post detected the terrorists coming out of the ground and coordinated an immediate airstrike. This was the first time the full potential of the tunnel threat was demonstrated worldwide. Thursday evening, July 17th, in accordance with the Israeli government's decision, the IDF invaded the Gaza Strip. Thursday evening, July 17th, in accordance with the Israeli government's decision, the IDF invaded the Gaza Strip. The new operational plan, called Forward Defense, which was planned by the Southern Command, had a radically different operational concept. Instead of a single sector maneuvering deep into enemy territory, operations were planned in several sectors simultaneously, with the goal of destroying the offensive tunnels reaching into Israeli territory.
אנחנו נצא למתקפה, תהיה מתקפה משולבת, יבשתית ואווירית, בתיאום קרוב עם הפעלת כל העוצמה.
The timing, force, and objective of the operation surprised Hamas. In the first stage of this plan, the IDF seized key parts of the northern and southern Gaza Strip, where tunnels were located. Before the IDF seized these particular areas, the local population was warned and requested to evacuate the area. Later, this operation was expanded to include central Gaza Strip, while the destruction of the offensive tunnels in the north and south continued. Before IDF forces destroyed the offensive tunnels, IDF units seized the various entrances to the tunnels and destroyed combat positions protecting them. The enemy frequently tried to use these tunnels to surprise IDF forces and also used snipers to target them. In all of these attacks, IDF forces succeeded in eliminating or routing the enemy. The IDF dominated the close combat completely. The fighting that took place in Gaza involved combined arms teams and was closely supported by the Israeli Air Force and Navy. During the operation, special forces worked shoulder to shoulder with conventional infantry units. There was close cooperation between the IDF's infantry, armor, and combat engineering units and the IDF's intelligence assets, which located the enemy's deployments and tunnels. The IDF's ground units demonstrated determination, adaptability, and bravery on every front, with optimal support by the IDF's logistical and medical elements. The tunnel destruction was accomplished via a complex technique that is yet to be fully implemented throughout all IDF units. Following the discovery of the tunnels, they were studied by specialized individuals, and a technique was adopted to counter them, using existing as well as new tools. The destruction of the tunnels was frequently performed under fire and could require many days to complete. The ground operation continued for as long as tunnels were being uncovered. The effectiveness of the air, ground, and naval defense forces, as well as the activities of the Home Front Command, enabled the Supreme Command great latitude to maximize the effects of the operations and eliminate all tunnels discovered. The destruction of the tunnels led Hamas to attempt terrorist attacks through the tunnels that had yet to be destroyed. On Friday, August 1st, the IDF agreed to another 72-hour-long ceasefire. About an hour and a half after the ceasefire took effect, Hamas attacked the Givati Brigade near Rafiah. 3 soldiers were killed in this attack, and 1 soldier's body was taken through a tunnel. The forces at the scene acted with determination to retrieve the body, including entering the tunnel, but without success. Evidence gathered at the scene made it clear beyond all doubt that the missing soldier had been killed and his family was notified. Once the IDF completed the elimination of the offensive tunnels, the Israeli government ordered it to start a new phase in the operation. This stage involved redeploying forces to the border between Israel and Gaza. On August 5th, an agreement for a 72-hour ceasefire was reached. During those 72 hours, both sides began negotiating a political solution. Hamas broke the ceasefire, and the fighting continued for 3 more days until August 11th, when a new ceasefire, lasting until August 19th, was declared. Despite efforts led by Egypt to reach a solution, Hamas chose to launch further attacks on southern Israel. The Israeli Air Force renewed its strikes, including attacks on the following targets: the safe house of Hamas's military chief, Mohammed Deif, as well as safe houses and high-rise buildings following intensive efforts by the General Security Service and the IDF's intelligence unit, elimination of Hamas's southern command chief, Mohammed Abu Shamala, the head of the Rafiah division Raad el-Atal, and a senior combatant in the smuggling section Bel Khum, and counter-mortar fire to minimize the damage to Israeli communities. During the operation, the IDF made great efforts to provide humanitarian aid to civilians. Due to internal pressure from Gazans, as well as international pressure, Hamas agreed to stop firing on Tuesday, August 29th, in accordance with the Egyptian proposal. This was the same proposal it had turned down in earlier stages of the operation. Hamas then agreed to some of the terms Israel had insisted upon. During the operation, the IDF summoned the reserves. 3 division headquarters, 10 brigade combat teams, and 2 territorial brigades were employed. During the operation, an active defense element was deployed and rapid force generation was conducted. Thousands of targets were attacked from the air, ground, and sea. C-41 capabilities allowed for joint coordination and for fighting with a unified network. During preparation and at every phase of the campaign, operational plans were supported by the JAG legal advice. Hamas and the Palestinian Islamic Jihad suffered terrible blows during the operation. 33 of the offensive tunnels were destroyed, eliminated, or neutralized. Important Hamas governmental infrastructure was destroyed, the weapons manufacture element was severely damaged, and Hamas led Gazan civilians to the brink of a severe humanitarian crisis. Israeli civilians supported the IDF and demonstrated patience and bravery throughout the operation. The damage caused to civilians and property was relatively small, considering the threat and the length of the campaign. During the operation, 5 civilians and 67 soldiers were killed. 469 soldiers were injured. The wounded soldiers and the families of those who fell during the operation were supported by the IDF Casualty Support Unit. Throughout the operation, IDF forces showed determination, self-sacrifice, and strength while completing every mission given to them, while at the same time acting in accordance with the IDF's values by minimizing collateral damage and not causing harm to non-combatant civilians.